Tommy, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate it.
An absolute pleasure.
I've got boxing royalty in front of me today. I've got loads of stuff to ask you. Obviously, fair to say the biggest kind of boxing dynasty to come out of Scotland to this day, I would say, obviously from your granddad to your dad to you. Obviously, before you get involved in it and your family had a rich history in it, did you see yourself getting into boxing? Was that always going to be where you ended up?
No, probably in my younger days I played more football, but I always wanted to be a boxing promoter. Never a boxing manager like my dad. I just wanted to be a boxing promoter and produce things where people could say, wow, that was good, I enjoyed that, and it was a great fight, and you know, and seeing people with smiley faces. I think that's what I always, and I liked the whole kind of theatrics of the whole thing, you know, because I mean, as a boy, I mean, the great promoters around about that time were Jack Solomons and Harry Levine, and so I mean, when you seen somebody like Jack Solomons operating, you go like that, you know, I would really like to do that someday.
How did you know what to be a manager? What put you off being a manager?
I probably in the early days, because managers weren't allowed to be promoters away back when I was a lad, you know. So, but and I like the freedom of the promoter, that you could just go. It's a wee bit maybe different today, but I like the freedom that you could go, and no matter who managed the fighter, if he was a good fighter and I wanted him on my bill, I could go and book him, you know what I mean, where you weren't tied into a wee team or a wee clique or anything like that. So I liked that part of it.
So you would have been a promoter, your dad would have been a manager. I'm assuming there would have been some clashes in that point.
I think it was just, life was reliving itself, because my dad would tell me that him and his old man were always into it about things, you know, because old Jim was famous throughout the East End of Glasgow, and he used to promote in Premier Land in Main Street, Bridgeton, and you know, getting away back, and then my dad coming through. It's probably like a resentment. As far as I was concerned, you know, with my dad, he was probably fed up with me, because every night when he would come in, I would have 100 million questions to ask him. Would that be a good fight against him? How much would they get? What would we do here? How would we do that? And I would ask him a million questions, and all he wanted to do was sit down and have his tea, you know. But he was very good, but I never. I think he gave me a good grounding, because even before I get involved with any of the boxing, you know, you were made to serve like an apprenticeship. So I learned to be a second, and I learned to be a trainer, and then I was learning about the managing, and I promoted the shows, you know. But like all fathers, I think he was immensely proud that I was having some degree of achievement, you know, but he would never admit it to me. You kidding? Because that would just be, I would have turned that on him and says, here, I'm the main man, no you. So he never do it, but just that, you know, when he died in 1979, you know, and people would say, your dad was dead proud of you. Your dad would say, don't worry. I mean, I know that he told like Mickey Duff, don't worry about our Thomas, which was my family name. Don't worry about our Thomas. He'll do okay. He'll be a top man. Never ever told me that, but he told everybody else. And I think that it's secretly that was the case. You know. So,
but that was the way, though, wasn't it? You never ever got the compliments directly.
No.
To you, it was you always heard it through other people.
But it still made me immensely proud, you know, that he even thought about that, because he probably opened so many doors, because having the name Gilmour in boxing, you know,
huge,
would open doors that would be hard to open. And even the day, I mean, my dad has been dead over 40 years, but some of the real old guys, you know, the guys who were only boys when my dad was operating, you know, used to, your dad was a fine man, your dad was this, he was a great manager, he was, you know. So even now, and his name getting passed down through, when I go down to London and stuff like that, and you get some of the old guys at York Hall and that and say, I remember your dad's son. You know, it makes you immensely proud that he was a kind of... Definitely. He was a kind of main operator, you know. And in the day, it was difficult to operate because people wouldn't believe you. I mean, I was 27 years of age before I seen my first world title fight live.
Jeez.
And yet we were the main. And my dad at the time, he had managed more British champions than any other manager in the whole of Britain, including all the big London managers. He had 5. I've had that in a weekend.
Aye.
Which is just showing you that the way that times had gone. And you know, and he had 2 people fighting for the World Championship. You know, one in 1952 and the other one in the early 60s. I've been involved in over 70 world title fights. I've managed 7 world champions. But was I as good as him? Not a bit of it. I wouldn't even go. I was more successful because that was the way the world was going. But to his achievements with two people losing in a world title fight was far greater than anything that I had seen. I'm proud to say that, you know. But because I do recognise that how things have moved from his time to my time, and now that I'm retired, that I see things happening in the boxing that I'm so glad I'm retired, because I just don't like all this social media, and people don't want to be world champions, they want to be influencers.
Yeah. What do you think you made your dad so good at the job, though? What do you think made him as much as, but depend how you measure success, but measuring success in the length of time he done it, and obviously the success he had, and people still talk about him, but you obviously loved him, you've seen it firsthand, but what did you think made him so good in that area?
He always had time for people. Always had time to talk to people, and that he had this way that, and I operated, and I'm proud to say that I operated. See, when you gave your word, you never broke it.
Yeah.
Didn't matter if you came away from the meeting and said, I could have got another 20 quid out of him. No, because
you stick to it.
Because you get another 20 quid out of him the next time. No, I mean, it swings and roundabouts, you know. And I enjoy. I think I enjoyed that era around about the late 50s and 60s and stuff like that, you know, because we can still remember all the movers and shakers, all the guys that made things happen and so forth, you know, and you know, and some of them were smashing guys and helped you so much, but you know, they would have the milk out your tea and then steal your tea and be still be your best pal in the whole world. You know what I mean? There wasn't any continuous feuds. I mean, everybody was a rival, you could say, you know. But it was just like, I mean, my dad was like a truck driver, because you didn't see him Monday to Friday because he was away working up and down driving. You know, it was where are you going? I'm going, and it would they did. Where are you going? I'm going to West Hartlepool's. Right. Now, probably only a certain age, because I think they just call it Hartlepool now, you know. But I always loved my dad going away because he always brought me back a dinky. I always got my wee car.
Wee memento.
Aye, so it was great for your dad to go away. And also he hated mincing potatoes, so it was a big deal. My mum would make my brother and I mincing potatoes. And my dad's going away, you're beauty, we're getting minced tonight.
Did you feel pressure, obviously with the success with your granddad and your dad, you're then into that arena as well, but did you feel pressure carrying the name?
No.
You're comfortable with it?
Cause, and it was the same with my kids as they came up, you know, they would go to school, and you know, when we started to come in and we were having the successes of champions and big shows and that, and kids would say, to my daughter or to my son, I seen your dad's picture in the paper. He's really famous. And I was dead chuffed with him, because he would say, No, he's only my dad. And that's what it was, you know. You kinda,
that's what you're to them.
Aye. You know, and they never forced me to go to the gyms with him or anything like that. Because I was the baby of the family, but have no mistake about it, I was the boss.
Right.
Aye, I was the boss baby. You know, because my brother was 7 years older than me, and my sister was 12 years older.
Right.
So, see whatever I wanted,
you got.
I got. You know, everybody, I was spoiled like nobody else was spoiled. You know, so, and it's great to look back and you can say here, and my brother, I mean, he died a few years ago, but he was, when I started to do well, he had such a puff in his chest.
Love that.
You know, he just loved the idea. That's my Thomas.
Aye.
You know,
and they're all supporting you.
Aye, everybody was on my side, and that was great.
Aye. I mean, I've got to ask, I was doing my research and I found this story and I'm like, wow, am I right in saying that you were doing the round numbers when Muhammed Ali was fighting here?
Aye.
How did that even come about?
Well, the thing is, my dad was very friendly with Angelo Dundee, who was the manager of Cassius Clay.
Yep.
And he was friendly with Angelo's brother Chris. So after Cassius Clay won the world title, he done a tour of the UK and he done a tour of Europe. But in those days, you couldn't go into an area without having an agent.
Right.
So Angelo Dundee said, Tommy Gilmour's my agent. And that's how it came about. And then when he came to Glasgow, but as I said, and people look at me and go, but he was quite an introverted guy, because the picture that I've got up with him and I, and then he also gave me one of his promotional cards, and it says at the bottom, Cassius Clay, I am the greatest, but he wrote it to Tommy from Muhammed Ali.
Right.
So he was obviously deep in thought at that time about where he was wanting to see his life moving. And he had quite a few people with him, and he had Jimmy Ellis, who ended up winning the world title after Ali lost his title with the Vietnam War and so forth. And Jimmy was a great guy. Jimmy was always, he could hold court and have a rare laugh. But Cassius sat in the corner.
And just done his own thing.
And just didn't speak to anybody. Right. He just sat there. And if I hadn't been Tommy Gilmour, there was no chance in the world he was getting his picture taken with me. I'm sure that he looked back and go, I remember I got my photo taken with Tommy Gilmour. You know, because like everything else, you know, Glasgow was the centre of the universe, and he was very proud that he get invited to come to Glasgow, you know, because we were the supreme nation, as we think today. But that's just us. No, he would sit, and then it was Chris that came over and said, "This is Tommy's son. You need to get your picture taken with him." And it was as nice as night, but he didn't say too much.
Just quiet.
You know.
How good was he?
Oh, he was excellent. I always think that a lot of the things that he done, if you were teaching a young boy, you would probably say, "Oh, don't do that, son.
Right,
that's not right." But I think that's where his greatness came. That he could do bad things that were right. He could cross his legs and his feet and so forth, and be off balance. But he was so good. He was, you know.
It's interesting though that you're saying he's like an introvert, but then when you watch videos of him, like when he's promoting fights and that, he's the opposite, and he's that outspoken razzmatazz, and then when he's behind the scenes, he's back to that.
I think he probably do, because that was a bad time in America for, you seen him when he came back, that people didn't really recognise him or give him the accolades that he maybe deserved in Kentucky because he came from a black family. And I think that had a lot of him. But and saying that, when he came back for the Olympics, and the syndicate that signed him, they were nearly all white guys.
Right, okay.
You know, and I don't like it, because as a boxing manager and a boxing promoter, I've never seen a black fighter or a white fighter. I've just seen a fighter. And that was that, and I've promoted in South Africa numerous times, and love being in among them, you know, because I think, again, it's an old Scottish saying, you know, we're all Jock Thompson's bairns. It doesn't really matter. If you're a nice man and you're good company, then that's all right. It doesn't really matter what the colour of your skin and, you know. And I've got so many people that, you know, when I go to South Africa, because I used to help promote and manage Baby Jake McLara, who was one of the famous ones, and I was fortunate enough that on one of our trips, we was sitting next to us at the show because he was a great pal. Baby Jake's was Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
You know, so.
It's all about the fighter rather than anything else.
Aye, and he would get up and he would dance and he would sing with all the punters and was very charismatic and, you know, everything about him. But the man had his beliefs. He was entitled to his beliefs, and there was a lot of wrong things happened at that time. But I think that the thing that, and it does go into your psyche, that he was an honest, straightforward man. Although he's done a lot of things that he shouldn't, and it was against the law, but he fought for his beliefs and everything else, and he spoke to people. He was nice to people. When he was sitting and it was just nice, and that seems to be the thoughts that I have, you know, looking back. Who were the guys that were, you know, you weren't out with them every week, but see, when you were in your company, you didn't feel uncomfortable, you were happy with them.
It's the ones that treat you the way you would treat them, innit? No, 100%. What about you took control of St Andrews Boxing Club, obviously massively historic. Was that a big moment for you?
I think it was a major turning moment. Yeah. Because it had been owned by a London company for a number of years. You know, it was founded in 72. Then it was it started in 73, and I took over. I think it was about 86. And then I was starting to come in because at St Andrews, because of the hospitality, because of Celtic and Rangers and the rugby and all the hospitality and entertaining clients was a totally new thing. And also the way that the city was changing, we were changing for like the old Central Hotel where they used to run boxing with Peter Keenan back in the early 60s. But then you had the Albany coming, and here was this super fashionable that everybody in their granny wanted to stay in. All the big pop groups and stars all stayed in the Albany, and I think that changed it. But I also think, and that was one of the reasons that I ended up selling it. I always just said that I was never the owner. I was always a custodian, right? Because Les Roberts and his people had done a great job for the first 12 or 14 years. Had done it, but I could see, you know, a wee bit Jurgen Klopp this weekend was running out of steam. Aye, it needed a wee change. It needed vibrancy, something new. Aye, so when I get the opportunity to take over, I welcomed it with open arms, and just things that maybe no matter to people. I mean, in a previous life, I used to work for a living, and I was an engineer, right, in the printing. So I was always very conscious of presentation and how colours looked in pages and so forth. So we went from being black and red in the St Andrews to becoming colour in the programme. It went to, you know, where we encourage companies to either sponsor fights or to become advertisers and so forth. So it was a changing revolution of the world that we were moving into a different era. And I think that's what it needed. So when I eventually said, I've had enough, I was 62 at the time, and I went, do you know something? I've been here for all the years.
Right.
It needs somebody younger with a wee difference, and the world was changing. I mean, I get so much criticism before Me Too and everything like that, because I didn't let women into the St Andrews. It was a gentleman's sporting club, and I mean, even although my wife and I, we owned it, she never ever stepped into the boxing room. If she wanted to speak to me, she sent one of her workers to say, "Tell Tommy I want to speak to him."
Right.
And we kept it, and we were very, very strict about how people dressed, and you know, and you weren't allowed to be outrageous. And every major company in the whole of Scotland was a member of the St Andrews, and I brought in TV with contracts with the BBC, and had great relationships with Scottish and Newcastle breweries. You know, we done it under Scottish brewers.
Right.
You know, so that was good. So I managed to fit into the changing world, but then I was saying, what else have I got to do? I mean, there was nothing. You know, I've managed Scottish, British, European, world champions. I'd promoted all these things. What do I do?
Aye.
What do I do?
What else is left for me to...
The only thing that I never had, and it's still the case, is never had a heavyweight champion, you know, because it was an unusual thing. I had a couple of ones that were probably good enough to win British championships, but didn't do it. So it just needed somebody. And when I sold it to Ian Wilson, him and his dad had been members of the club for a few years.
Right.
But Ian was the absolute geek of boxing.
Right.
See, when you met Ian, I wanted to talk to you. I mean, a very successful businessman and everything like that. But he just loved the boxing, loved every bit, and he gets so. And I could probably see a wee bit of me in him. But I had to go back 20 years to find it.
Aye.
And I just needed a break, and I wanted to spend more time with my wife and my family and so forth. And so at 62, I decided, like, that's me out. And I stayed on to try and help them for 3 years.
Right.
And then when the end of that Friday came, you know, there's my keys for the office door. They made me the president, which I'm very proud of. They made me that, and that was me. I was happy as Larry.
Aye, happy
and
to
now, when they've got a show at the St Andrews, they put me on the top table. People come up, they might remember me, get a picture taken, I get a laugh, then I've got to say, "Who's that I'm talking to?" You know, I'm no starting to, my mind of that's no starting to go, but you know,
not many folk.
But they were not, but it's great still to
Definitely
to get involved. You know what I mean?
I read a lot of bits about the club, and obviously the big promotion for you was the Pat Clinton fight. See, looking back on it, how big was that fight from your point of view, from a kind of promotion point of view, and for the rest of your kind of promotion career going forward?
Massive.
Aye.
Massive. It was, you know, because boxing was controlled by London with Mickey Duff and Jarvis Astaire and Terry Lott. They had all the stuff. But I was fortunate enough there was people like the BBC, like Jim Hunter and Mike Abbott and Preacher and so forth. So they got behind me. I also was lucky that I had a great relationship with Scottish Brewers.
Yeah.
With Alistair Wilson. Scottish Brewers through the main brand McEwen's, they were the sponsors of Rangers. And I was sponsored under Tartan Special, which was suited me because we were special.
Aye.
We were very Scottish. So that was it. And they used to wonder, because when I was bringing fighters in from abroad, you know, they would walk out at Glasgow Airport out the customs hall with a Tartan Special T-shirt on. They go, I went, no, here. I can't tell you my business, you know. But we were fortunate, and the city got behind us. The Strathclyde Regional Council got behind it, because a lot of these people had seen me growing up. I mean, like getting back, like Pat Lally, who was the Lord Provost of Glasgow. his wife and my sister were pals, so they used to watch me when I was a wee boy and scrub my knees with steel wool and stuff like that, you know. So I think that they were willing. I mean, they wanted Pat to win, but I always felt that people wanted. They knew how much the whole thing meant to me, you know, and we took all the chances and so forth. And, you know, we couldn't afford to hire people, so my wife and my 2 kids and things that you would normally just have subcontracted it to somebody else and paid them £25. I didn't have £25.
Right, okay.
I need to watch every penny.
Aye.
But it brought us together so that my greatest day was their greatest day, and we managed to do it as a family.
Is that the real high point for you, the Clinton one?
Aye, you know, because everything I spent for about November through it took place in March. You know, every day I worked, and every day, and that was before mobile phones, so I'd be sitting up working to maybe 11:30, 12 o'clock every night, and it was the enthusiasm that was driving, and nothing get in the way, and I would be in the office till late on, and everything about it was great, everything about it was fun, and it was mine, you know, and things that we brought in, and the same way the newspapers, they go behind us with, you know, with such intent, and the programme that we created for the night. You know, I would say that it's probably one of the best programmes that's ever been made, because every major newspaper, you know, for the Record to the Sun to the Herald to the Times, the Dundee Courier, everybody that was willing me to win and willing Pat to win the title, they all wrote articles about it, and all the my punters for the St Andrews, they all took adverts and the programme. So it was a great time for togetherness. Glasgow City Council presented Pat with, you know, that was they gave him a gown, and they gave him shorts, and they seen me his corner men, you know. So they done that in Glasgow. I never knew that when you put these big banners across Circuit Hall Street and across Buchanan Street and that, you actually had to pay for them.
Right.
But I was Tommy Gilmour, and I just wanted help. So Strathclyde Regional Council, they come in because they own the streets. So Strathclyde Regional Council, they come in, and they just said, for 6 weeks before the event, you can have your big banners all across.
Ideal.
Video, you don't always nothing, and that was great. Also, it was such a tight thing, because it was the most expensive thing I'd ever run, getting into 6 figures, and you know, so everything was a sweat. Although they were very good with the Brewers. BBC Scotland was great, but yeah, I needed to get the sponsorship money for the Brewers. I needed to get it on BBC National.
Right.
Harry Carpenter that come up, but I knew the type of money that they were paying Mickey Duff and them, but never gave me anywhere near that.
No.
Well, that's all we've got. You take it or leave it, and the fella ended up becoming the head of the English FA, Brian Barwick,
right,
a Scouser, and I said, see what you've done to me, and I've met him every time I meet him, even to this day, you know, 30 years later. I went like, you definitely had my trousers down. But do you know something? There's no a guy that I've got more good things to say than Brian Barwick, because he did do it, and again, later on I was signing a fighter in Manchester, and they walked in and they went, you want to sign with him? He said, he's one of the best and most honest men in boxing. And see, for the money that he didn't pay me, he'd pay me back 100.
In other ways.
Aye. And he was good. But what? I mean, a Scouser, but what an operator he was, you know. But again, you're not looking at any of these things as bitterness. You're just looking back and saying, that was all part of learning. You were an apprentice to a certain extent. But they were good, you know, and when you got Glasgow City Council, and as I said, we needed money, so forth, and in the days, the Glasgow Sports Promotion Council, they used to help and sponsor events coming into the city. So we went and seen Bob Dalgleish and Bernard Connolly and stuff like that. But later on, I sat in the sports promotion, but I never ever thought that Glasgow's taxpayers' money should ever be used to enhance the profits of a company.
Yeah.
It was a funny thing that I had, rather than just taking the money and bolt. So the deal that I done with Bernard Connolly named Glasgow City backed me to the tune of £20,000. The first £20,000 of loss they would take, but I wasn't wanting anything for nothing. I just wanted help. And what the deal that I done with Glasgow City Council was, for every £1,000 that they backed me with, if I made a profit, each £1,000 would amount to 1% of the profits.
Right.
So when it went in, when we done the books at the end of it, and I'm saying here in open air, and I've admitted it many times, there was a case that it didn't make, because I just paid a lot of things out of my pocket and stuff like that. But it did show a wee profit. I can't remember. I think maybe £5,000 or something.
Aye.
Showed a wee profit. So the week after the show, I sent Glasgow City Council about £1,100 or thereabouts, which was their share. And I would think even to this day, there is not a person or company that's ever paid back to the council.
Yeah.
Because even when I went to sit in the Glasgow Sports Promotion Council myself, I would always help. I would always put my hand up to help people. But you're not getting the money to an end. Because if I don't need to give you money because you didn't lose money, I can use the money to help netball or tennis or
something else.
Something else. And I had a lot of wee idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
That was just me. But there again, millions of people say, see that Tommy Gilmour, he's an awkward sod, you know. So, but and I'm the first to put my hand up to it, you know. But that was me.
How much of an impact did that fight have on you personally? Because putting all that work into something, and obviously the ideal situation happens, obviously Pat wins, but from your point of view, did it have an impact on you from a health point of view, from a well-being point of view?
Aye, because all of a sudden I was 1,000 feet in the air.
Aye.
And then like 2 days after it, I'd come back down to earth. I don't know if I'd lost, somebody taking something away from me. I don't know if I was just sad or I was relieved. I don't know what the emotions were, but I just know that I wasn't feeling great. And the manager of the Albany, Alberto Laidlaw, he just arranged for my wife and kids, and we went down for a few days down to the Lake District. I slept for 48 hours.
Jeez.
No problem. But for a number of months after that, I didn't have any enthusiasm. I was still going into my office every day. I was still promoting shows at the club. I was still promoting shows elsewhere and managing a load of fighters. But I'm not sure if I was into it.
Yeah.
I was just shattered. And it took me a while to do it. And probably in this day and age, because people would say I possibly had a mental breakdown. I probably, you know, suffered greatly for depression and so forth. But in saying that, it's the greatest moment in my sporting life. And if I could live even with the pains and trials and tribulations that it brought me, I just wish I could relive.
Aye, do it again.
You know, and even sometimes when I'm watching, I'm going through a drawer and I find the DVD of Pat winning the fight. I sit and watch the last round, and I'm saying, oh, Harry Caps said, oh, well, I don't know if Pat's done enough, and you're listening to all them. And then when they read the scores out, and it's coming to a split decision, you know, and remembering that the guy that voted for the Mexican, he was for Denmark. So I was glad when Brexit came about. You know, that was me getting mine. That was me getting mine back. You know, but the Puerto Rican and the American, they voted for us, and it was a split decision. And I sit and cry.
Still watching it back now?
Aye, I know who's won it.
Aye, just the emotion of it.
But in my heart, I want to see who's won it. Is it a dream? And it was just magic, and for to get this, I mean, there's a play coming out in April.
I seen that holding the jackets.
Holding the jackets, you know, because they said to me, "Did you ever box?" "No, I only held the jackets. I can't fight." You know, so the likes of that, and they'll go through it, and it'll be a great laugh, because my dad will be there for heaven, and my grandfather will be there for purgatory, and they're sitting and they're arguing. You know, it goes back to what we spoke about 20 minutes ago. They'll be arguing, "What do you know about boxing? He's winning it. No, he's winning it." And we'll get this laugh.
Aye.
And it'll show bits of the fight, and we'll get the opportunity to. And it's a split decision offer, and then Pat will win it. And
is Pat going to go along to the play as well?
Oh, aye, Pat will be there.
Brilliant.
Aye, I couldn't do it, because even to this day, I mean, we're not in constant time, but every few months, and he'll send me a wee text, and he'll just, "For your wee champion."
Love that.
And he's absolutely right.
Aye.
You know, in all the world title fights I've ever promoted, I earned less for that world title fight than I earned for anything.
But that's the one you remember the most?
Aye, because that was the first, you know, probably like your firstborn child or whatever. It's just, and I, you know, don't ask me what I had for my breakfast this morning, because I'm no a certainty, but ask me every movement of the Pat Clinton fight for 1992, you know, and the things the barriers that we broke down, you know. Pat was a red hot Celtic fan. Oh, went there every week, and he was friendly with the Grants and that, who were big shareholders at that time. So he would train there. But the first people who offered to sell tickets to help it being a success was Rangers. They come in, and everybody wanted to.
He's pulled the city together then, hasn't he?
Aye. He done that, and there was just so many things, you know, and the same, the Glasgow Police pipe band to bring him into the ring, you know. There was a fella, no far from here at Cranston Hill, he was the pipe major.
Right.
So he arranged to make sure that the pipe band was there.
Brilliant.
And we would give it plenty of welly and stuff like that, and Ronnie Brown for the choreos, and coming singing in the middle of the ring, and
love that.
You know, everybody there, and even the SFA with Ernie Walker and them, you know. Celtic were playing at home that night, and I couldn't afford it, because I needed all the Celtic fans to be
at the fight.
At my fight, otherwise, you know, I'll be out sweeping the streets. So I said, phoned to Celtic, and I said, just change it, play another night. Well, I don't, you know, and that was so how far I was up my own backside. I just thought I could walk on water. I just changed it. And then at the end of it, they said, look, and I phoned Ernie, whom I knew, and who was one of life's long gentlemen. And he said, I tell you what, see if you can get Celtic and their opponents to agree to move it to another, because it was a catch-up game.
Right.
If you can get them to move it, I'm no block it for you.
Right.
So they wouldn't change it for Celtic or Rangers, but they would change it for Tommy Gilmour. and all these things. So it's little thought that for a wee while I probably thought I was walking in sunshine, you know.
Aye. How hard is it? See being a promoter, what were the biggest challenges that you faced into when you were trying to get your stable out there?
Seats.
Aye. Is that it? Selling tickets?
Aye. But I enjoyed it at that time because there was no internet.
Aye.
And I loved press conferences.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you would be sitting there and you would have maybe half a dozen photographers. You'd have 2 television stations. You would have Radio Clyde and Radio Scotland. You'd have all the newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
And we always made sure that unlike a lot of the stuff in the foot, we always made sure there was a wee cup of tea and a wee sandwich for everybody. And we always found them a story, always something that they could hit out.
Aye.
You know, and it was great, and that carried on through at the Clinton fight, because every newspaper guy came with his wife to watch the fight, and if you watch the video of the day, you can see the unbiasedness. When Pat won the world title, they were up dancing on top of their seats. You know what I mean? So it was just such a collective thing, which I don't think we've been seen before or after. I mean, 'cause after Pat became it, and I done a couple of wee jobs with Barry Hearn, and then he became, him and I, when they came to Glasgow, I helped to promote and co-promote the fight, and we had a lot of things, and then we went on to become pals and family friends, and we remain that way, you know. And we probably suited each other, because I was very much a nuts and bolts thing. I would get through. I knew how long it would take me to walk through the dressing room to the ringside and stuff like that. But Barry was good at going out and selling things. He was good at going out and...
So the wheeler dealer, wasn't he?
He would go and find the money, and I would spend it. You know what I mean? But and we had a lot of successful winning shows, but a few that we done our brains in. But you know, if you made it, and everybody would want to be.
Aye.
And you know, when you talk about it, I remember Barry doing the deal with the television for 10 fights for Eubanks, and it was £100,000 a fight, £1 million for 10 fights. Now you're seeing Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua getting 20, 30, 40 million, you know.
Aye.
And were they as good, as exciting as Nigel Benn and Chris Eubanks and Steve Collins and all that? But everything's relative.
Aye.
You know, you could buy a gallon of petrol for £1. You know what I mean?
Aye. Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because obviously looking at boxing now, where do you, obviously you're retired and you're away for it, but where do you stand on the whole people coming in that aren't boxers coming into the ring, and these fights are happening, and the money's astronomical that's out there, but well, how do you view it if you're working there?
I just totally disagree with it, you know, because for me, somebody's just playing with what we done as a living, and they've been fortunate enough. The boxing board have changed immensely since 1929 and coming through, and they're under pressure probably because of the all these TV companies and stuff like that. But how many of these people out there have been in the same position as we were, you know? My boxer fought against James Murray when he lost his life.
Right.
My boxer, Michael Towell, through his own fault, with telling lies, but such was his will to be a successful boxer. He was willing to put his life in the line. That I find commendable, but the idea that he lost his life and left a young family at the back of it. Boxing's a dangerous sport. And I happen to be, you know, and excuse me, give myself a clap on the back, I think I was a good manager and promoter. But was I ever madly in love with boxing the same way as my dad and my grandpa? Probably no.
Right.
And I've always been a bit of a crusader as far as health and welfare. It has been sat in various committees and so forth. Boxing's a very dangerous sport, and when you used to go on the radio and people would say, well, how can you defend the boxing? Let me just say for you today, it's indefensible. How can you defend two grown men punching 7 bells out of one another? But the wee bit to add on to that, see when you're watching it in that type of fight like Eubanks and Ben and stuff like that, it's exciting. So there's no doubt about it. And again, that was one of the things when I was retiring. I was stopping getting the butterflies in my stomach. I was going through the motion because in all the fights that I was involved in, if you watched the telly, I was always the guy that was trying to sneak a look at the scorecards. I was always the guy that was up in the corner. I was always the guy that was berating the referee. Because I was really into it. But I'm still not sure, you know. If my grandsons wanted to do it, I would make sure that they got the best advice possible. But it's exciting to watch. But is it the right thing? I don't know. But you can't. People should never be forced into boxing. My dad didn't even force me to go to the gym with him. I had to ask, can I come to the gym? Of course you can. And then you would go out to the gym and you would punch the bags and play a bit and whatever. But it's a hard sport where people lose their lives. And
that's the thing. I think when you see some of these fights, and they probably see the money that they would get for it, but it is the reality that a punch could end it at any point. And you're now seeing these influencers and they want to fight actual boxers, and you're like, these guys have trained for 20, 30 years. You've been in a gym for 6 months. It's not the same preparation at all.
The only thing now is because some of them are boxing with a licence, that they've got to go through the MRIs and the MRAs and all the different tests and stuff like that they come through. But, you know, it's a lot of the fights that they're having, I would have had them at the Sporting Club boxing at the bottom of the bill. You know? But they're making tens of millions out of it.
That's the thing, the money's... And even you touched on Tyson Fury, but even fights that Tyson Fury's got that aren't against... It's not like a Eubank Ben, it's not too similar. It's you know he's going to win, but he's still getting 30 million for turning up, and he'll play about for a few rounds and win. There's not really the same competitive edge now that there used to be.
No, it's just things have changed, you know. You'll have somebody in here in 10, 20 years and they'll give their opinion of how life has moved on. You know, but did I have a good life? Absolutely.
Do you miss boxing?
No.
Don't miss the involvement at all?
No.
That's when you know it's time as well, isn't it?
You know it's time. I went to a boxing dinner down in Cannock in the Midlands. And what I enjoyed about it was pals that I had in the boxing 30, 40 years ago, they were sitting at a table with me. You know, people like Paddy Lynch, Ron Gray, you know, Ron's 81 and Pat, I think, is close to 80 and so forth. But each of them, because I had the conversation particularly with Pat, and he had a lot of good fighters and so forth. Do you miss it, Pat? No. You know, and I think that it's me, but I don't know if that's an age factor, because I don't do Twitter and
like
social media and so forth. Enjoy myself no end of the day, you know, that telling the stories and letting people say, well, is that a good story or is that a bad story? And punting for them to come and see Hodney Jacobs for tomorrow, you know. Contact Webster's.
Love it. And then you go for boxing into the world of darts. Was that planned?
No.
Or how did that come about? Was that through your relationship with Eddie?
No, I just knew Eddie when he was a wee boy. I used to, when his dad was away, I would take him shopping and stuff like that. No, that was nothing. I don't think I've never done a deal with Eddie. No, because I'm too hard work. He's better sticking with Bob Aram and all that. I'd just be sore heads for him.
So you never seen yourself in darts or anything like that? Did it just?
I was just wanting to retire and travel the world. No, what it came about, I was retiring when I was, believe it or not, when I was 55.
Right.
That was me. I said I've had enough. And I was having the conversation with Barry Hearn, and he went, "Oh, don't be stupid." And he was quite right, because it was just after I was 55 that the world went into a recession, and people lost all their money and stuff like that. Touch wood, must just be my glass feeding thing. I was 40 and I never lost a penny.
Right.
So I kept on for another, and then ended up. I said, I'm out of here. I said, I've got to turn it in.
Aye.
And he said to me, you need something today. I went, I'll not have a problem. No, he says, you'll get fed up. He says, and I'll get fed up talking to you every night and everything. He says, aye. He said, there's this darts player. I went, oh, aye. He said, for Scotland. He says, he's right good. He says, and he's coming for the BDO, and he's going to join the PDC.
Right.
I said, oh, aye. He said, I think you should manage him. I said, what do I know about darts? I said, I'm probably worse at darts than I'm at boxing. I said, what do you tell? No. He says, you and him. He says, with your experience in the world of sport, he says, and with Gary being a Scotsman and stuff like that, he says, you'll do it. Now, this is when it come back. I didn't even know what Gary Anderson looked like. And yet he'd been the best player in the world in the BDO. So I had to get the office to give me a wee printout.
Get a wee photo of him?
A wee photo. So I went down to Glasgow Airport to meet him. He was coming up, we were going to a darts thing through at the Highland Showground in Edinburgh. So, and he walked out right away and says to me, Tommy, how are you doing? Because obviously he'd seen my photo in the paper hundreds of times, because there probably wasn't a day or a week went by without my photo with one of my boxers wasn't in. I said, oh, how you doing, Gary? Lovely to see you. A load of absolute nonsense. So we sat in the car, and by the time we got to Livingston, he'd said, will you be my manager? I went, aye. So we signed a contract, and then there was an option, and we signed another part of it. And then after, it would be 4 or 5 years or something. And I went, your contract's up. Aye, I know. Do we need to sign another one? I went, it's up to you. He went, can you just be my manager till I get fed up with you? And I'll be your fighter, or I'll be your player, till you get fed up with me. Is that okay?
Fair enough.
Bosh, we've never signed another.
Jeez.
And that's the way it went with Barry Hearn. I signed one contract with Barry Hearn. He'd done it, and he'd signed the contract, and then he changed. He moved the goalposts to a bigger arena, and so that changed the numbers. Sent for him, come up in my office. I said, that's not right. Right. So got my secretary at the time to change it all, and I gave him it back. I said, if you like that, you sign it and send it back to me, and that's it. He went to the back page and signed it, never read it.
Right.
He says, you never read that? He says, no, but if you told me it's all right, it's all right. That was the last contract I signed with him, which was in Glasgow with Eubanks and Tony Thornton.
Jeez.
Nobody did. I mean, I've had a lot of arguments, and I went to court with people because they broke their contracts and won my court cases, High Court in London and stuff like that. And, you know, Barry wanted to let it go. I said, no. If somebody agrees with you and they knew it, don't try because somebody's blown in your ear to go and do something else. But nobody ever come back and said, we signed a contract and it's not right. So that's been my trademark.
Aye.
My word is my bond.
Aye.
I can always go and make my money.
Aye.
I can't go and reinstall my thoughts and my...
No, and it's that trust with people as well, isn't it?
Aye. And apart from that, I don't really remember anything. Don't tell them any lies.
How different is the darts world to boxing? Because obviously the last few years especially, it's exploded, and it's obviously Sky have picked it up, and even recently you've got Luke Littler, and it's just everywhere.
Can I say I prefer the boxing world?
Really?
Aye.
Why?
I think at the time that I came into the boxing was always something people had been in about, and there were gyms and people, and they learned either we gossip or taking part and so forth. With the darts, when I came into it, I found it quite strange about how they done business and how there wasn't any real total control, and you would find that managers were their pals.
Right, rather than just being a manager.
Aye, there were guys that had supported them and paid for their entries and so forth, but they didn't really do it. And I think that we made some changes to, you know, the players' contracts and so forth. Most of them were all frightened to stand up and talk against the PDC or talk against Barry Hearn. I've never suffered for that. You know what I mean? It's either right or it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, and you need to say something if it's no.
Aye. And when Barry, he knows me better than anybody, that when I got up, because I've had all these things through the years when he wouldn't answer phone calls to me, and he wouldn't do that. And then I was on his way down to see him, and he phoned me and he went, "How are you doing? This is wonderful." I said, "What you want?" He said, "You've left calls all over the place for me." "Aye." "What is it?" I said, "I've got to talk to you." He said, "What about?" I said, he says, "Where are you now?" I said, "I'm in the car going to the airport." "How are we going to the airport for?" I said, "Because I'm coming down to see you." I said, "I'll be at the house later on." "I'll not be in." I went, "Well, see, when you do come in, I'm a guy lying beside the milk bottles." He went off. And he used to just nod his head. He would say, "Look, just leave it. I'll phone you the night. Promise you, I'll phone you the night." He says, "We'll sort it out." But he was very good, and he was very good for me, because if I get something into my head, I get up at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and write letters, you know, that would need the Lord Chief Justice to go through, you know what I mean? But he knew how to get a grip of me. And that was it. So even when we were arguing with him about contracts changed, it hadn't been changed, it was an alright contract. But I wanted it changed so that we had a wee bit more control. And when I turned up at the meeting, he had big London lawyers, and I turned up with my wee woman. And she had a message bag.
Right.
And a woolly tammy.
Love it.
And I walked in and Barry's went, "Who's this you've brought with you?" I says, "This is Marion." "Oh, right. Okay. Nice to meet you, Marion." And then he turned around to me and went like that, "I'll just go and make you tea." Now, I've known him for 30 odd years. He's never made a cup of tea yet. But he knew that when I brought this wee woman that looked like Mrs. Thursday off the telly, I was coming all guns firing. And she actually gave them, because that's the type of guy I am, and I'm not sure if it's something right or something wrong, but see, if something's bothering me, I've got to sort it out.
You've got to deal with it there then.
And fortunately, with Barry, who, as I said, became one of my closest friends, I told him, you know, things that were bothering me that I didn't tell anybody else. But he always knew how to he always knew how to get a grip of me, you know. And then when I was moving on to something else, I done maybe one deal or two deals with Barry, you know, rather than with Eddie. So Eddie's a new era for me, although he's doing magnificently well and making more money than him and his
crazy money.
Me and his dad. He makes more than a month than we made in 5 years. You know what I mean?
Aye.
But good luck to them. That's the way of the world, and he's well suited to the world because he's a good-looking big boy. He's a super salesman. You know, definitely a chip off of the old block, but it's different to. He's probably dealing with different types of people than what me and his dad done.
Aye.
You know.
Aye, totally different challenges.
Aye. But it was great.
Aye. How do you look back on it all?
Oh, we just wonderment. I've had such a good life. Aye, I can't. You know, I'm not even sure people say, would you? Is there anything you would change? Nothing significant, I don't think. Because most of the people that I had working for me, they didn't work for anybody else. They only worked for me. And I never had a problem with. I always was hands-on, and when we were at shows, it wasn't unusual for me if I seen something the matter with the ring, I would go underneath and tighten it up, you know what I mean? Which you wouldn't get Frank Warner or Barry Hearn or Mickey Duff doing, you know? But it was just so as it would look good on the night.
Aye.
And we enjoyed it, and it was great.
Love it. Been a pleasure.
It's
an absolute pleasure.
Aye.
Been brilliant. Been Webster's, if anybody wants a ticket for... When is it? When is the actual play? Is it April?
Mid-April.
Mid-April.
It's on the Friday night and the Saturday night.
Right, so get onto Webster's.
And the tickets on the deal are only £16.
Right, that's a bargain then.
Aye.
Brilliant.
And they'll get it because they're doing the play, which I'm really looking forward to. And then they'll do a wee half hour, so if they can shut me up to half an hour, I'll do a wee question and answer with people. But I'm just looking for people, because what it is, it's all the seriousness being made into comedy and laughter. You know what I mean?
Aye, so it'll be a good wee night out then.
Aye. So, and if you need them, I'll hold your jacket.
Tommy, thank you so much.
More than welcome.
Pleasure. Brilliant.